Stupid quickie video. The secret 13.5-inch max length on pistols. Max pull length. From the longest part on a pistol from the trigger, the maximum length you're allowed to have has been decided to be 13.5 inches. The distance is measured from the trigger, what part, to the rearmost point on the stock along the axis of the barrel. Now, the only reason anybody really knows about this is when they decide they're going to take a pistol and basically make a rifle out of it for some fucked up reason, and or make a marble getter. A marble getter is a really ridiculously long-barreled pistol that has a folding stock. And the idea here is, if you don't know about it, take your shoe off. I mean it, do it now. Cuddle it close, and that distance is about 13 inches. Well, actually, it's a little longer. It's going to be 13 inches. But the idea with 13 inches is it's a little over a foot, an inch and a half longer than a foot. And if you need to brace here, that distance on a human being, a grown-up adult human, they should have these scaled for little people too, right? Midget joke? So anyway, at 13.5 inches, if it's shorter than that, it's a pistol with a stock. Now, why would you do that? Well, convenience and yada yada yada. Yeah, but if you actually put it against your shoulder, we're just calling it a stock anyway. You're breaking the rules because you're not allowed to have a stock on a pistol. What is this based on? Again, the whole idea here is, and this is the reason for it, actually two of them. One of them is make it to where it's not concealable, but every single pistol, by definition, is an easily concealed weapon because it's less than 26 inches long. Okay, but if you give it the ability of a rifle having a buttstock or a long barrel, that makes it into a rifle. And also makes it non-concealed. But you could fold it in half. You can get a shotgun that literally is just a buttstock and it folds in half and it has an 18-inch barrel and the whole thing is 18 times 2. Or whatever the distance is. So what is this? You can also get a rifle like that. There is a type of rifle that uses what looks like a breech loader, but it's a magazine-fed breech loader. Someone invented something because they wanted to have something they could pack. And by taking a gun completely apart to where the entire feed mechanism and chamber and everything is over here in one hand and the barrel's over here, you make an effectively non-usable weapon until you put the parts together. It's actually very safe. And the only way to make it work is to put it together exactly right because it's put together like a damn Rubik's Cube, some of them. But anyway, a short barrel rifle has a barrel less than 60 inches in length and a pull that's longer than 13 and a half. Because they set the limit with a production device that they said this is legitimately short enough to still be requiring the rule that if it's a pistol, it can be fired by one hand. If you can fire it offhand, it's a pistol. There's also a rule that says if you make a gargantuanly large barrel and just put a handle on it, it has to have an angle to it because it's not supposed to have a right angle. You can make it just a pistol with an 18-inch barrel. Or you can make a portion of 26 inches, it has to be 26 inches. So if you make it a 26-inch barrel and has a handle on it, even though it's obviously a giant-ass pistol, if you want to fire it, you can, but the rule is it can't be concealable. Pistols that are concealable can't have these other pieces that would let you have precision shooting ability. So you'd have to hold it out, stretched away from your body, and fire it. It's actually really hard to concealed carry fire a gun like this. It's not like I've ever built a pistol brace to go against my face. I still don't get why this is anyway. But I just thought I'd tell you about that because it's one of those rules that grew out of something. There was a production device produced. They wanted to grandfather it, but they had to come up with some math rules about it and it ended up being 13.5 inches. A gun owner has to know that his firearm's characteristics bring it under regulation to be guilty of a crime or to not be guilty. If they're not aware of it, if it just simply is some practical adaptation and alteration to a piece of equipment they have, they can legitimately say, I didn't know that was against the rules. They'll still have to pay a fine, but you can't actually imprison them because, well, to be declared a criminal, you not only have to break a law, you have to intentionally break it because either that you know it's a law. Ignorance is not an excuse, but it can be a way to reduce the sentencing. And this is the thing. People sometimes had full-on rifles and shotguns the butt stock was broken on, and it was a sharp piece. They could still fire it two-handed, which is a requirement, but the butt stock broke off. That actually has happened surprisingly a lot, or in some cases cutting it off just so they can pack it with them and do a breakdown job on it so they can get it out of wherever they are, usually for emergency purposes, and then they go to the police department, and if they know about the rule, and say, I need a new butt stock, but technically I had to use this for hunting to get out of the Yukon. And also, in previous centuries, there weren't any rules like this. You could just have a big, long howdah pistol. But because criminals used them and they were effective at being stored body length from shoulder to abdomen to where you can bend over and you don't look like you have a gun, concealed weapons rules. If no one had ever done a concealed weapons usage during a bank robbery, which did happen, it doesn't happen much anymore, but did happen, nobody would have thought of making the NFAs. The National Firearms Act rules would have never been in place. Anyway, truth about guns. ATF suffers rare court loss in Ohio court short-barreled rifle prosecution, and the icon for the video will be that icon. They decided to cheat and measure a barrel, the buttstock of this pistol, to the trigger, not in the straight line with the barrel, but tilting it at as much of an angle as they could to make it more than 13.5 fucking inches. Yeah, this is going to be the annoyance I have with the ATF. The ATF's job is to, unfortunately, administer a bunch of rules that basically say any non-conventional looking gun is immediately suspect and should not be in use until they approve it. And honestly, if you build a weird looking gun, or if you're building an experimental gun, you are not required to get ATF approval, but they love it if you do, because they can say, yeah, you can build this, or no, please don't, ever. And they'll give you a reason for it. They actually tell you the reason. And with this gun the guy had, it had a piece of equipment on it that he added a cane tip to, so he could set it in a corner and keep it from falling over. Because the bottom end, the back end of it, the buttstock, was a chunk of metal. He wasn't trying to shoulder the damn thing at all. It's a cheek rest, so you can press it against your cheek and use your head as a reference point for it. That's actually what it says for being doing. In fact, making it longer would make it less effective. It doesn't have enough surface area at all to tolerate the kick from that gun. And him putting a rubber cane tip on it did not make it to where it would actually make it any more pleasant. It would encourage him to put it next to his shoulder and drive a nice, nasty 1.5 inch dent into his chest. People have done that. You can take an AR-15 and take off that tube thing, the compensator pipe, take everything off of it. You can shoulder that if you want to. The ATF says go right ahead. It's a jackhammer. We dare you. Because it'll hurt. But you can fire it as a pistol. AR-15 pistols are based on having that and other parts in it, various lengths. The idea with the pistol is it's already concealed sized. But they're grandfathered in, so they have to create all these weird exceptions. So after this guy roars past because he needs to, he must be running away from somebody. That literally looks like somebody escaping the cops. I'm going to introduce something in the video here that might be useful for size, continuous, and just coinkydinks. CO2 cartridges. Content versus length versus diameter versus the neck width at the tip of them. An 8-gram cartridge has a 65.8 millimeter length and 2 5/8, and it's 18.22 millimeters or 11/16 inch in diameter. And there's an 8.5 millimeter 5/16 size measurement. Link below in the description. It gets confusing because they have screw types and all sorts of things. The 12 gram, not 12 gauge, is 82.5 millimeters long, 3.5 inch long, 3.25, and is 18.6 millimeters or 3/4 inch. And there's the neck width for the little nozzle is 7.3 millimeter or 5/16. The other one was 8.5. That was the neck diameter. Nothing at all like 12 gauge shotguns or 16 gauge. 16 gram, 88.4 millimeter long, 3.5 inch long. 22 millimeters in diameter, 7/8 exactly, 9 millimeter nozzle. No, these cannot be used as neck-down shotgun shell cartridges for firing bullets. But I just think it's kind of funny that when I looked up the numbers, I found a bunch of companies not wanting you to know the size of what a CO2 cartridge is. It has nothing to do with Teleflator mouse shooting them out of shotgun barrels. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that. Oh, and Louis Elizondo, he never had any responsibilities at that program he said he was in. He was in the Office of Undersecretary of Defense of Intelligence and was never associated with UFOs at all. Just saying.